apologize that my voice isn't what it usually is. Not been well the last few days, but that's alright. I'll be fine. This is a video response to a video by Togetherforpeace called Science, You Slut. Let's have a listen.
I have a need that the assertion that there is no God cannot meet. I have a need that stands in opposition to, in abhorrence to the belief that there is no God, to the position that there is no God, to the lack of belief that there is no God, however it is that you may care to express yourself in that.
Okay, a couple things. I respect your feelings. I have different feelings. Also, it's a very awesome beard. I cannot pull that beard off. I literally could not grow a beard that good. And I want you to know that. A minor point, though. The lack of belief that there is no God. That phrase, you're trying to dismiss, it seems to me, as a minor semantic quibble, something that's actually pretty relevant. It is a lack of belief. Yeah, and that's a relevant distinction. You can't just lump them all together and make it out to be just a different way of wording it. It's different. It's just different quality that you would be describing with lack of belief, as opposed to assertion that there cannot be or is no God. All right, what else we got here?
This need I have says, I will not bow down to you and confuse the reality of my life, of my everyday experience, of the intuition that yells, yes, God, you are real. Yes, God, I will worship you. Some may counter, but Jack, those are emotions and just the byproducts of evolutionary processes and natural selections and random mutations and tossing time, of course.
Well, I guess all I have to say to that is your ability to foresee that criticism and mock it with a funny voice doesn't do anything to reduce its rhetorical force. So I'm not really sure what you're going for there.
Don't get me wrong, I see the benefit of the scientific explanations of the observations. I see the benefit of the words we use. These words used which evoke the presuppositions brought to the table of science in order for it all to make sense. Grant the presuppositions of sense. Sure.
I don't know what you're getting at there, so I'm just gonna. I honestly don't know what you're saying. Let's move on.
Of course. Yes, I will. I will not, however, let the limitations of the scientific explanations define my world, my life, my experience. I will not be bound by such a thing that is no story. Nope.
That seems a little unfair. I mean, just because we don't claim to know the story certainly doesn't mean there is no story. I think that the history of the Earth and the history of the species of this planet is a pretty good story. You should watch it was on the History Channel or Discovery Channel, I don't know, a while ago. They had the stages talking from started the Precambrian era and they moved forward, and that was it's a great story. It was an awesome story. I love the part with the Dimetrodon. It was really awesome, but I mean, you can't just say it's not a story just because it's not your story. That's not fair. Moving on.
I will joyfully cling to the greatness, the inspiration, the beauty, the song, the story of the Creator, which stands in alignment with my experience of life and existence. I will rejoice in the love of Christ and the forgiveness found.
All of which is your right and your privilege, and I wouldn't not ask you or anyone to be untrue to their experience of the world. I might, I ask all people, including myself, to be very, critical of our interpretations of our experience of the world. But I'm not asking you to abandon that. I wouldn't ask you to abandon that.
Stay where you are in the confines of the lab and in the objects and the medicines and the weapons of warfare and mass destruction to which we so gratefully thank you for making the world a better place.
You know, being an atheist does not obligate me to speak for the military-industrial complex. Those are two very different things. You know, for what it's worth, I protested the war in Iraq. I have very serious questions about the war in Afghanistan. And although I was pretty young and naive at the time, I had very serious, very deeply serious misgivings about even our actions in Bosnia. And incidentally, I have, I could, go into the archives and bring up reams of extremely critical essays I wrote, not just about those wars, but about the conflicts between the wars, the bombing campaigns of Desert Fox and Northern Watch. Being an atheist does not put me on the side of any of these little side debates, In fact, my experience in the anti-war movement convinced me that, more often than not, Christendom, as it is interpreted in America, took the other side. So I would never take that experience of mine and interpret it to mean that all Christians have to answer for the military-industrial complex, because that would be stupid. Moving on.
Should I suppose that the need of the one to look at pornography while being in a relationship with a woman, should I suppose that this need that was expressed to me by an atheist?
Okay, two things. First of all, just like the military-industrial complex, my atheism does not mean that I have to answer for the porn industry or any other industry or any other political movement, even if it was expressed to you by an atheist. And second of all, you are in no position, sir, to be defining what constitutes a violation of boundaries in my romantic relationships. You can't tell me that. And likewise, I can't tell you that about your own relationships. You forget yourself, sir. You forget yourself. It is between myself and my lover what, constitutes a violation of that trust, not for anyone else to say. And the same is true for your liaisons, consorts, and lovers.